everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Now Chat Show. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome Kazmak alongside this beautiful, amazing host alongside myself, Jermaine the God. That's what we call it.
Hey, Kaz. Hi.
How are you doing today, Queen?
I am great. I'm great. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm very tired. Yesterday, myself, Miss T, Janelle, Ayola, we was at the London Chambers of Commerce Black Excellence Awards 2022 at the Boysdale. So we saw some real Black excellence in the building and being awarded for their contribution to the Black culture. So it was a London Chambers of Excellence that sponsored and Moody that sponsored. So yeah, it was amazing. So guys, do bear with me. I know you can see the thumbnail in the background, but I'm trying to multitask. And the reason why I've got my apron on because I'm baking, so you may see me go offline. I'm keeping it real because money for Mick, and I've got to do this cake job. So this is the time that I can do it. So so that's basically what's been going on with me. What about yourself?
I'm trying to think this week what I've been up to, but yeah, no, nothing to just working and preparing because obviously I'm preparing for my show soon, the podcast Guiding Lights. So I'm preparing for that. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, now it's just work and preparing, just doing all the work so that I'm ready for my guests on this weekend, and yourself will be blessing me with your presence on Sunday and the rest of the girls. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to have very good conversations. I can't wait for everyone to see what we're going to talk about. But apart from that, I'm great. I'm really interested about tonight's topic because I'm not there yet, but I know that, it's soon come, them time they soon reach me. So yeah. I'm very interested to hear everyone's stories and learn what I can about menopause.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I feel like I'm not saying I'm getting there yet because I'm still having my full 5 to 7 days period. But I do feel like there's a change in my body. I don't know if you're experiencing, to be quite honest, a lot of people that I have been speaking to, and when I say a lot of people, I'm talking about women who I have actually had conversation with. They're talking about how challenging their period has been during the season. I don't know about you, if your period seems slightly different or does it seem more
different in a good way, like lighter and not so much pain. So which is strange to me, but yeah, it's been positive. So it hasn't been like normal where it can be a lot of pain, and like the first 2 days I'm just out of action really. But the last few ones have been very calm and less painful.
Okay, but do you train regular as well?
Do I?
Do you train regular?
Yeah, I do go to the gym and I work out most days, like at least 4 to 5 days a week. So yeah, I try and do some sort of exercise.
Yeah, because that can also have an impact with regards to the period and everything as well. To just like ease to ease it up as well. So the more active you are, because remember when you're working out, it releases the endorphins, doesn't it?
Oh, okay.
So even though like I've been told, you shouldn't do too much like strenuous kind of workout, things like that. But I find if I have enough sleep and I do push weights or I do anything quite is it vigorous? Yeah, vigorous. Anything that's quite intense, I will sweat, but my body can do it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just really about the mind at the end of the day, because when you think about the athletes and that, I mean, they must still have periods. I'm sure it's a lot more lighter, but
yeah. And definitely what I learned from the doctors on the last time they was on the show, where they were saying periods should just be like did he say a teaspoon or tablespoon of, and I was like, what? All these years, and you heard that girl say how much sanitary pads she went through, like about 20, 30 a day.
Yeah, because I go through quite a few in the days. Like I will go through at least about 5 to 7.
Oh, is it a
day? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, I'm that heavy, but I'm definitely heavier than a teaspoon. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So yes,
But I think a lot of it is our diet as well, our diet, you know, because obviously, I mean, I know Dr. Amsu, Mr. Break, is going to be battering us up about the food intake. I'm not even ready. I can't even go to them right now because I'm keepingitreal.com. Oxtail, I had oxtail for lunch. I needed something nice.
My
I had oxtail and
favorite.
rice. So I kind of got some prep meals in the freezer, innit?
Yeah.
So because obviously I was at the awards, I just quickly put a little rice on the fire. Well, not the fire, on the rice cooker. And just took out the oxtail and then boom, went to work. That was me lunchtime. The ting sweet me said, me never in business. People could have come in the canteen. I didn't care. I was sucking the bone. Everything. Oh mate, it was a lot. I didn't care. Do you think
that meat affects it? Because now that you're mentioning it, remember I was saying to you that I haven't been eating meat. So I wonder if that's affected it as well.
We shouldn't be eating meat. It's raw. It's dead animal. We're putting dead animal in our body. It's like me eating you, innit?
Oh, yeah, I'm not for eat, especially with this butter, yeah. Hey, juicy, man, juicy. But yeah, for true. Yeah.
But when you break it down like that, when you think about it, that is literally what we're doing. But I don't even want to go into that because I know they're going to talk about it and I just don't want to even hear it. That time I'm going to be in the kitchen sorting out this. I'm going to hear the background. I just don't want to see them because every time I see them, they just make me feel away. Like, yo, like I should be just going out into, you know, like you should have an allotment and you just picking the lettuce and this is so delicious and let me eat this like a rabbit. Like, bruv, no, I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, we'll get there. But we're definitely not there yet. And I don't know, like, if I could say I wouldn't eat meat for the rest of my life, but I think that, you know, for me, I'm at the point where I'd like to take breaks for like 6 months or a year or whatever, and I don't know if I could go past that. Especially with Christmas coming, because you know that's a meat eating time, Christmas Day. And
I don't even celebrate Christmas, so it doesn't even bother me. I come like when it's Christmas time, it's come like I'm fasting. It's weird.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, all these people cooking all this amount of food and having this feast. Every time I see that amount of food, it's like going to a buffet. I cannot. It's like overindulging. It just makes me physically, like, not physically, mentally, it just makes me feel full. And like,
that's good. I wish I had that problem.
Too much. It's too much. Yeah. All right, so we want to big up to Janelle and Paula and Owen as well for the event yesterday. It was amazing, guys. I will share the link so that you guys can actually, not you guys, you can. I'm going to stop saying guys because one, and not guys. Secondly, it's a really bad habit. Hi, guys. No. You can watch the show later. You that are watching right now, I see you. Yeah. Please share as well. Please share the link for this actual live show with your contacts if you can, because we want this information, this knowledge to spread as much as, you know, as fast and as possible. Yeah. So I'm tired as well. So do excuse me. I haven't really had much sleep. So
it's important because it affects every woman. It's something that affects everybody. If I'm your woman, it's going to affect you.
Exactly. So from the age of 45 to 55. And our lovely co-host, Miss T, she's going to be joining us as well because she's going to be sharing her story. So we just said, you know what, make her be the guest, innit? Like, like give her moment. You get me? Innit, Miss T? We see you in the back. Yeah. All right, let's bring them all on. So we got Sparkle who's going to be joining us. What Sparkle? Denise. And we got our beautiful Miss T in the building.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, so we're going to quickly just go around the house real quick. So we've spoken to Tremaine. So Sparkles, if you can just basically introduce yourself and just dive straight into your menopause story, and then we'll just go by Miss T and then to Denise straight after.
Hi guys, hi everybody. No guys, hi you all. Yeah, well I think I'm maybe past the menopause, although people say that you never really get over menopause. For me, I didn't really understand menopause. It didn't dawn on me what was happening with my body or the changes, because I always had problems with periods, never having them for anything long shorter than 7 to 10 days, heavy. So from an early age, I was using alternative contraceptives just to stop and slow down my menopause, my period. Sorry. So when the menopause was happening to people around me, like friends, I used to always laugh, and I used to call them water buffaloes. You know this. And I say, oh, here you go, water buffalo again. There, she's making that noise again. And I'm just thinking, why are you so hot? And what I did notice, I didn't experience those hot flushes and that's perspiration and, oh my God, I can't breathe. I didn't have any of that. It was really strange for me. When I realized menopause was hitting me, it was when I started to notice my mood swings and my sort of sensitivity to things that wouldn't normally have bothered me. And it was just, I used to have a lot of, people call them depressive moments, but I just used to have these moments where I was just like feeling sort of sorry for myself and looking at I kept visiting my life, or where am I going with my life? My life is not changed. I haven't done nothing with my life. I just found myself going really deep. And it was really weird. And then, you know, I just started thinking, well, what's going on? So I went to the doctor and I said, look, you know, I'm finding myself, I'm watching the Smurfs and I'm crying. I'm thinking, what's going on? It didn't even dawn on me to say, oh, wow, I'm going through the menopause. Because for me, I mean, I only stopped menstruating last year. And I'm coming to 60, and I just only stopped last year. And that was only because I had fibroids and that, and I had all that removal. And when I did all of that, it started to fizzle out and die. So then it stopped. But that was what, 58? So I've just gone, yeah, 58. It's just finished. But it would, all the symptoms, the mood swings, the lightening of the period where it used to be heavy, and then I'd have just spotting. So for about 3 years, I only would have spotting. So I'd never know, but I always knew when it was there, because every time it was due, I went on a low. To the point where, you know, because I didn't understand it, I had to go and have counseling. I thought I was losing it a bit, psychiatric, like just go and have an assessment to find out, well, what's going on. And it was only just by chance I was talking to a nurse, well, an admin nurse. I think she was assistant, when I was waiting to be seen by my counselor. And we were just talking, I was just telling her, and she said, have you thought, how old are you? So I said to her, pardon? She goes, well, how old are you? I said, I'm 51. She says, oh, have you thought it might be menopause? I said, yeah, but I'm not water buffaloing. I don't get hot. I don't know. No. It doesn't always start like that. It builds. It's all different things. And I thought, really? Just didn't think about it. I went into my session and I asked the counselor, and I said, could it possibly be that? Well, they said, well, yes, you know, but it depends on the person, you as an individual, and how you feel about things and what's going on in your life at that point. It could be. And it was really weird. And I'll never forget it, because say the appointment was, I think, the Tuesday. The Saturday, I went out partying, as I do, and I had a few drinks, but I only had 2, where I'm a person that will drink a good 6, 7. But the second drink, I just found a heat. Like I had my hair sort of in a weave, and it felt like the weaves, my weave was stuck to a tree branch and it was lifting up, and I was walking away from it. It was really, I just can't explain it. And I just thought, whoa, God, you know, like you see the cartoons and you see the head just lift up like that and come back down again. I'm thinking, what? You know, I'm holding the head. I'm thinking the heat. And I thought, oh, what's happening here now? So I kind of got a bit worried, and I thought, oh, let me just watch that. Went home early hours in the morning, could not sleep. The heat in the bed, no matter what I did, whether I took off the quilt, I opened the windows, I put a fan, I could not sleep. And I'm thinking, what was that? And that was, I was 51 going on 52. Then I had nothing at all. Nothing at all. Then the mood swings and the the low mode and everything started at when I was 56, going on to 56. And that was thinking, no, I'm getting old. I'm getting old. I thought, because I got sort of medical things, and I thought, oh, maybe it might be my medical condition, you know, my disability, it might be that's causing all of these different modes, because they don't know how it comes about. That's fibromyalgia. So they don't know. They just said it's just in your mind. It's musculoskeletal. It doesn't mean anything. But I'm saying, no, don't tell me. I know what my body's changing. I know when I'm feeling pain. But it was just like they kept making all excuses. I would have swelling of the stomach, sensitive breasts, you know, like emotion. Oh, listen, the smallest.
When you say sensitive breast, what, like, is it your breast or is it like your nipples on that?
The whole breast. You touch the nipple with a feather, I would scream like in pain. You touch my breast, anywhere around my breast, it felt, oh, no. It was to the point where when it was coming, if I was engaging, I didn't want them to touch my breast.
Oh, shit.
That's how it started. Then that's eased off. Then I had a period where I was always dry below. And I'm thinking, what is going on? But I still wasn't getting the flushes, the heat, but I wasn't getting any of that. I was just getting mental. It was all in my, well, I say it's in my mind, but I was getting all those sort of depressive modes, emotions, like sensitivities, body sensitivities, like my breast and that. I didn't want anybody to touch me. I didn't even want you to be near me. Another thing that was really at the peak as well, my smell. I was so sad, like I picked up any smell would turn me like, oh. And people would be looking at me, can't nobody else smell that? All my senses were heightened at the time when I knew it's supposed to be my period time and it was coming. I'm still spotting and that. And it was really weird. And even now, I still don't get the flushes per se, but when I've got something on my mind or something affecting me, stressing me out or something, I seem to then get the flushes at night in my bed.
Wow.
I haven't actually, that's why I sort of, when Kaz approached me, I said, yeah, I'm interested because I've not met anybody that had experienced it that way. So I just was interested to know, is it something just odd or does it affect people mentally as well? Like into the sense where the emotions and everything changes, because that's how I, address or how I sort of relate to what my menopause was, is the changes in my emotions and my sensitivity and everything. It's just all that, not the hot flushes or I can't wear this and I've got to have a fan going every minute. No. But what I would say to anybody is going through the menopause, alcohol is not really the one. It's not really one, because as you know, the alcohol makes your white cells swell anyway. But having a menopause moment and drinking alcohol, it's a no-no.
Bad combination.
Bad combination, as well as overweight. Bad combination. Mix.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Wow.
It's ridiculous.
Thank you. Right, so we're going to go straight to Miss T. Miss T. What
are we doing, guys? We're tired, you see? Lord.
yes, we're done already. Listen, mate. Yeah.
So, I started mine. I didn't know when I'd started mine. For me, that's what was the most distressing, because I knew there was something wrong. And I kept asking at the doctors, like, my symptoms were mainly like, I was very rageful. I was very angry. Sensitive. I'm already an emotional person already. So everything just seemed to hit a raw nerve and I would lose it quite quickly. And I kept asking the doctor, what's going on? And they kept saying to me, no, you're stressed. I had 2 tests as well, because I'm very persistent. I'm not frightened to say to the GP, no, I want a second opinion. No, I'm not happy with that. I was doing all of that. I had 2 tests, and they came back and they were like, you're not perimenopausal. It's stress. It's due to stress. So my symptoms were that I was having the night sweats, and I was quite dry. Having intercourse was painful. but mainly for me, it was more the emotional side. Like I felt like I was losing my mind, like proper losing the plot. Sorry, the cat's coming to trouble me as usual. So yeah, I felt like I was losing my mind. Like the forgetfulness was, it was unreal. Like mid-sentence, whatever, like at work, you're supposed to, and I'm like, you'd forget huge things. And I just very judged as well, because because I didn't know what was happening to me, and I was saying that I don't feel right, but I couldn't really say what it was. And so when you're trying to explain to people, people are looking at me like, you're not all right, are you? Like I felt like going, and maybe that was part of it as well. Like I felt very paranoid and very self-aware, and I'm like, okay, no, I'm not normally like that. So I felt anxious. That's the best way. Like the anxiety, my anxiety levels were off the scale. Panic attacks. I was having panic attacks, and I just thought I was really and truly the despair. I felt despair that I was losing my mind. That's the best way I can put it. And nobody was understanding how I was feeling. I felt like every time I tried to explain, people would look at me like I was a crazy lady, and so I withdrew very much, went into myself and became quite depressed, and really unmotivated. Like I didn't want to talk to anybody really. I felt really isolated. That's yeah, felt really isolated. So I literally started when I was 42. Now, like, so mine was confirmed. Sorry, let me just go back. Mine was confirmed 2 years ago. So,
And how long had you had the symptoms before that?
2 years ago, so my symptoms started when I look back, when I look back from recently, 42.
Wow.
So I didn't have any treatment or anything like that. Like I just went through it. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm proud of myself, because at the time, like nobody said to me it could be this. They just kept saying to me, you're run down, you're stressed. I kept saying, like, I feel like I've got a fog in my brain, like I can't think right.
Oh my gosh.
I thought it was to do with nutrition. So I'm a person, I'll research. So I'm thinking, no, it must be the nutrition. Maybe I've got this. So I'll be treating bits and pieces, but not actually realizing that all these combined symptoms were menopause.
Yeah.
So like now I'm so clued up. Like I know like all the stuff, like, wow, there are like, there can be like up to 40 different symptoms for menopause.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
and no, we're not. Oh, don't let me get started on the men on pause as well, because I feel every man just really drove me crazy as well. Like I just wanted to, I'd have literal violent episodes in my mind, and I thought, no, that's not on. Like visualizing, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you what I visualized, but it was violent. If you piss me off, like, don't. I'm looking to take your head off. Do you know what I mean? So, and it was very at work. It was very much like people were commenting a lot, like, we know when you're angry. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm a human being. I'm going through stuff. Like, and also I've gone through many bereavements as well. So I couldn't pinpoint
If it was
what was going on. Yeah,
Wow.
but now I'm kind of like pretty much over the other side. I have the odd night sweat, odd hot flush. I'm still very forgetful, and I still have like anxiety, but I've learned how to cope with it. Like I do a lot of mindfulness and things, and I have a good diet. I should exercise more. I walk everywhere, but I should like be exercising.
But isn't that an element of
But
exercise? You're still moving.
Yeah, but I mean, also not being when you're aware that like the menopause makes you like really demotivated, like
Yeah.
it's like knowing, thinking I was down on myself because I was thinking, you're lazy. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I was being really cruel to myself because I didn't understand what was going on. And that obviously doesn't help. So now that I've, you know, done the research, I've come out that I know, like, okay, be gentle with yourself. That this is not a normal thing. Like women cut their hours at work. Women go through divorces and their relationships deteriorate because of these symptoms. And so it's important for women to know that, you know, you're not alone. Like when you're going through the thing, we need to talk about it. You need to find out is, you know, what's your age? What's your history, your family history? Now, this really annoys me because by mentioning a few things, my grandmother was like, oh, yes, we did have mine early. And I'm like, sorry.
And this is the
how
thing, we
early?
don't have these conversations.
Yeah, just fibroids. Yeah.
Everyone just leave you to
Guess
the
how
presidents.
early? Guess how early?
Not 42.
Like, no, like late 30s.
Oh, that's early.
So that makes sense
30s.
why you started early.
And I'm just like, I don't think that this was an important thing for you to mention to you, right? You've got little granddaughters. Like, really? You know what I mean? God rest their soul. But yes. And then also my mother's side, that was my father's mother, but my mother's mother, she went through hers. She said that she went through hers in one day. And I'm like, okay, Mimsy. But that's it. There's nothing to say. I had it in one day. That's it. So yeah, we need to have these conversations with our parents and grandparents. You know, they might not want to tell you, they might not want to, but just try. You know, or speak to other members of the family, cousins, aunties. Just get a picture. But I would say to most, if you're taking like doing a journal and things like that on a regular basis, you'll be able to see certain patterns of your behavior, you know, and how things can affect you. That helped me a little bit because I'm a very, very sensitive person, very emotional, but it was just, it was off the scale craziness for me. So that's my story.
Thank you for sharing. Denise, do introduce yourself and then we want to hear your menopause story.
Okay, my name's Denise. I'm 57 years old and I'm a psychotherapist, been practicing in that field for 36 years.
Sorry, is that your headphones? Something.
I've got headphones in.
Yeah, that's fine. We can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been in that field for ages, for decades, 36 years. And I'm
You need to turn it up.
Or should I take it off?
Yeah, take it out.
Take it off.
Yeah, but you need to plug out the headphones then. Plug it out.
Plug it out.
Yeah. Was it
plug
plugged into?
Pull it out.
Is it in a laptop? Oh, no. Put it back in. Put it back in.
Or turn the volume up.
Yeah, I'll turn the volume up. What's this? Oh, okay.
Cordless, wireless. Cordless.
I want to be like you. Gadgets.
Well prepared.
Gadgets, boy.
Oh boy, but yeah, now this menopause thing seems serious, boy.
Listen, mate, it sounds like I'm going through the menopause then. It's for the things that you're not saying because it just sounds like me. You with the titty and the older, me feeling all twitchy and overthinking what have I done with my life. But then again, I've been saying that all my life. But so, you know what I mean?
Oh boy. Okay, Denise.
Denise, are you back? Oh, mate.
She ain't back yet.
The headset phone.
It looks like the headset's playing up.
Yeah, your headphones are playing. Put back the other one.
Anita, between the 51 and 56, you didn't have no other symptoms.
Well, this is what I'm saying, because I just didn't, you know what, there's a period in life where you go by where you don't want to acknowledge the fact that you're getting on.
Yeah.
You're still trying to play spring chicken. So despite what was happening in the background to me, the moods, the oh, I forgot to say, your sleep pattern changes as well. You seem to need less sleep. So all those things, I just thought, because I was working with, whether it was the menopause, whether it was the fibromyalgia and all the signs of that, because fibromyalgia gives you brain fog, memory, and all those things. So it's all part of it. So I wasn't sure if it was that, if it was the menopause. So for this, in between that period, yes, there's the hot and not the hot and cold. It was the depression, the lowness. I mean, for a good number of years, I just didn't know what was going on with me. I just didn't know. I mean, Kaz, I used to come by you and we'd sit down and have these chats when she would do my eyelashes or something. And I'd be in this emotional state and I'd be explaining things to her. And I don't even know where it was at, what was going on. I just was like, but I just didn't relate it to menopause.
Right.
And it's very true, not speaking to your elders and older people and family members, not having the lack of understanding and the ignorance about it, you miss a lot of opportunities to help yourself to have a better experience during the menopause than going through the harshness of it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Let's just see, Denise, are you back with us?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Brilliant. Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm an author and as well as a psychotherapist. So I'm 57 and my last period was 2 years ago. Looking back, I think I was in perimenopause from the age of 46. Similar story to what others have shared. For me, it was the anxiety. All of a sudden, it became so huge. And there was panic attacks. And it just felt like it came out of nowhere. At the time, I was also in therapy because I'm a survivor of childhood trauma. So I can struggle with anxiety. But throughout all my years of recovery, I've never taken medication for mental health. No stigma against medication, but I never felt the need. I was managing my wounds and healing. But then at 46, it changed and the anxiety just became so huge. And I actually had to go on medication. And I felt some kind of way about that because I was thinking I didn't need to go on it when I was doing all the hard work in my healing. So why all of a sudden the anxiety has just gone over the top. And so it took me a little while to kind of make that decision to try medication. And it did help. It did take the edge off. It never stopped the anxious feelings. It stopped the panics, but it took the edge off. So I lived with that for a bit. At the time also, my periods were, it's really good to hear you guys talk about heavy periods because when I used to go into the shops, most of the period pads, they're quite flat. And I used to think, who wears that one? Who wear that one? Because I was always the thick ones, but in the last couple of years before I stopped my periods, it became even more heavy. So my iron was always low. So I also thought the anxiety was also caused by low iron because that could make you tired and depressed and low mood and make you anxious. And then the last 4 years especially, the sweats, day and night. The night sweats are awful. Because I like my sleep. I work with people who's healing or has been through trauma. So I give out a lot emotionally. So I need my sleep. Sleep became a very strange experience. I used to find myself just waiting to fall asleep. And all of a sudden, it's like the early hours of the morning, I have to get up. That's really strange for me. Being awake at that time, and not being able to fall asleep. I did go and get a bit of help with that. It's something called Amitriptyline because it helps.
I'm on it now, 35 milligram. Yes,
it's. They used to use it a long time ago for depression, but at higher doses like 200 and something. For people who suffer with, is it fibromyalgia? Yeah, and other type of illnesses like that, they give it to you because those illnesses can disturb your sleep.
Yep.
So amitriptyline in small doses acts as a sedative, so you can wake up but you go back to sleep.
Yeah, it's non-disturbed sleep.
Exactly. So even with the sweats, when it got the worst of it, it's being drenched. You know, like you're wet. It's like drenched like 3 times a night. The amitriptyline, once you get up and change and do all that, because that could really wake you up, the amitriptyline actually helps you to go back to sleep.
Straight
You
away.
know, so I still take that. I'm not on an anxiety medication. I weaned myself off that because I didn't feel I needed it so much anymore. But for 3 years, anxiety was awful, and what it was also doing was triggering some of my trauma. So I actually thought it was more about that than the menopause. But I know now it's the menopause that took the anxiety off to that level. I tried HRT a couple of times and came straight back off it because it brought my periods back, and there's no way in hell I was going to have. I was looking forward to not having periods, so I'm not going to go back, you know. And they can't tell me, you know. They said, oh, it's just one of the side effects, but give it 3 months. But still, some women continue to bleed, you know, maybe every day. No, I didn't want that experience again. So twice I tried it and came off it. Sadly, it did help with the night sweats, you know. So I was really depressed when they came back. And it does affect your mood. Yeah, moodiness, because you're so tired. You know, it makes you so moody and grumpy and angry and easily annoyed and intolerant. So that's real as well. And I'm a positive person, so that was quite noticeable within myself, let alone around other people, if someone else was saying something similar. Like other people have said, diet is important. I found recently that a low carb diet really helps with my emotional and mental well-being, as well as with my weight, because my weight was like this. But because you're not sleeping, that also makes you crave sweet, carb, sugar. It's like a vicious cycle.
Yes.
And I was on it a lot. So I decided to try the keto. But that's really working for me. Obviously, I'm not strict with it, but it's still low carbs and low sugar. Exercise, like someone else, about 5 times a week. That's my me time. Meditation, someone's talking about mindfulness. Yeah. Plus I do my research, and I found out that people who've experienced childhood trauma, they tend to have a hard time during menopause. So I had that going against me. I also researched black women compared to their white counterparts have a hard time during menopause. I didn't know that before.
No.
You know,
is that because our makeup is so different?
It's the same reason why we were dying quicker in COVID than our white counterparts. You know, we're people who's under stress and pressure every day of our life and throughout the generations.
And
it's going to impact your physiology. Yeah.
And is that because we're carrying more trauma as well? Because we're obviously carrying like our ancestors' trauma. Because even as you were speaking, I just thought about our ancestors. Like, what did they go through when they were going through, you know, being enslaved and to being slaves and everything? How were they managing?
Yeah, they had to put that out their minds. That wasn't something that, you know.
Yeah, and maybe the trauma that they was dealing with was far worse than you know, the traumas of menopause. They probably just didn't even have time to even feel those or notice it because of the big trauma they was dealing with, just staying alive and
exactly. It's about survival.
Yeah, and survival. So it could be that, but yes, that's a good point, boy.
But what's sad is that when still not talking enough, it almost as I'm listening to you share your stories, and it makes me feel so much better. You know, I'm not alone. It reminds me of like when we start our period. There's so much secrecy around it. It's like, have you started the menopause? I mean, we need to start just talking without shame. You know, it's part of the human experience of women, and everybody's lives is impacted by a woman. So everybody needs to pay attention
to these things.
Yeah. Definitely.
And men as well. It's important for them to pay attention because, as you know, you mentioned someone mentioned about
sparkle, I mean.
about how relationships, you know, get broken up because of menopause and that. So if men had a better understanding of what's going on and how this can affect their wives or partners or whoever, then that could really help as well. So men definitely need to get involved. But you know what man is like when they hear period, and you know, enough of them is old school. They even, wow, you're too tough, much less, you know, talk about it. So I know times is changing, but you know, they need to be a lot more open to this because a part of life, you know, everyone has to go, is going to go through it one way or the other, and everyone's going to be affected by it. Because whether it's your mother or your girlfriend or your sister, you know, if they're having a moment or they're moody, it's going to affect them. So it affects everybody at the end of the day, just some more than others.
I'm just going to read out some of the comments. We got fosterkidsunite.inc says, at 57, she's 57, I'm blessed. I have no menopause symptoms. Not sure if it's since eating vegan or just luck. So it could potentially be about well, we're going to find out from the doctors whether or not that, you know, definitely helps. Young Curl C's in the building, big up yourself. Sandra Irene, who's one of our guests from a previous show, big up yourself, Queen, and all of you amazing individuals that are with us right now. So before we bring the doctors on, I mean, even listen to all of what everybody's saying and everything else. Like for myself, I've been experiencing my nipples are just like, yo, mate, what on earth is going on? And I'm not on my period, and it just feels like, you know, you just don't want to touch, like, oh, I don't even want to put a bra on. So I've just been wearing the sports bra and everything else. And the mood is just, but then again, I'm not quite a moody person anyway, but this is on next levels kind of mood. Even when you were saying about the violent side of thing, I've been feeling like that as well. Like sometimes I'm just in my head, I want to chop somebody up.
Maybe you should check it anyway.
Yeah, but I don't want it to be menopause. I still need to have my youth.
A choice, mate. But the doctors hopefully might give you a bit more insight into that, so which is good.
I do get the when they talk about your diet and your eating, because what I have found over the last 5-6 years, I've really gone heavy into my greens and my vegetables. I can eat a bowl of vegetables and nothing else with it, with no problems. Especially like the kale and things like that. I can eat a whole plate, and I don't actually need any type of protein. But also what I have found, what I have done in the last 3 years is I sort of cut out like the red meat. So I'll treat, like when I've decided, okay, because my favorite is lamb. When I decided, oh, let me just have a bit today, I just take a chance, because it's not like I've said, oh, I'm any kind of vegan or anything like that. I've just decided I just didn't want to do it, because when you read, you hear all the stories, and I listen to some podcasts and talking about how long beef and things like that takes to dissolve and what it does to the body. I just thought, you know what, let me just give it a try. I tried it. And the one time I might have it tastes good, boy, it tastes good. But the next day, Jesus have his mercy, headache. Every kind of every kind of pain you could feel in your body is hitting me. And I'm saying, my body went back on that red meat business. You know, that it's just something. But I'm interested to hear what the doctors are saying. You know,
I think it makes sense. Let's just bring them on, Mr. Brates and Dr. Amsu. Good evening, Dr. Amsu. How are you doing? We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
You guys have to understand something. There's a game going on right now. Scotland versus Man United.
You guys is in Atlanta and you lot
I'm over here working. Some of us have jobs. I hear them laughing, listening to you. How you ladies doing today?
We're doing great. I'm gonna pop out for one moment. I'm listening in the background, but I'm baking at the same time.
Oh, yeah. What are you baking?
I lie you, I tell. The score's 2-0. The score's 2-0 to Man United. She wanted to find out the score.
No. She don't release.
You want to find out the score. We soon come. Enough talk.
All right.
Yeah. So if I think it would be good to start with you, the doctors, if you can, Mr. Breaks, and Dr. Is it Amsu or
Yeah,
Amsu.
Dr. Amsu. Dr.
Yeah,
Amsu.
Amsu. I'm Tremaine. I'm
Tremaine, how
host
you
Hey, Tremaine.
today. Hi guys. So yeah, so if we can just start with you talking about menopause and how you know, some of your patients are affected, just, you know, to, or explain what is menopause, and you know, and some of the symptoms, and then the ladies have raised a couple of things that we want to ask you about after as well.
Okay, so first of all, what we wanted to talk about was the lack of information, right, that especially Black women have when it comes to this transition, right? So menopause is basically it's a natural occurrence that happens when the ovaries stop producing stop releasing eggs, basically, right? So there's a finite number of eggs that women have, and it's around between 400 and 500 eggs, right? And it depends on the woman, depends on genetics and what have you. And when your eggs start running low, that's when you enter into the transition period, which is known as perimenopause, right? And perimenopause has a whole bunch of symptoms that can occur, right? And it's because of lack of knowledge and lack of preparation why women go through the symptoms, right? So perimenopause can take anywhere from 3 to 10 years, right? Anywhere from 3 to 10 years. And it usually, you know, it usually starts at around 46, 48, right? And menopause usually kicks in. And menopause is basically when you go 12 months without a cycle, consecutively without a cycle. So on that 12 month, that's menopause. And the day after menopause is post-menopause, right? So during perimenopause, that's when it can be a nightmare, right? Post-menopause can also be a nightmare, depending on epigenetics, depending on diet, depending on nutrition, depending on lifestyle and habits, right? So when you enter into perimenopause, there's an increase in the amount of estrogen in the body, right? There's an increase, a natural increase, which can get up to 30% more estrogen. Now, estrogen is a steroidal hormone, and it can have absolutely damaging effects. So there's this this problem called estrogen dominance, this condition, this malady, estrogen dominance, which most women have estrogen dominance, and it's through the diet, through what they ingest, whether you breathe it in, you know, you put on your skin, and we call those xenoestrogens, right? And they can come from pollutants, from pesticides, herbicides. So famously Roundup, right? You've heard of Roundup, which is a known pesticide, right? It has what we call endocrine disrupting chemicals in them, like estrogenic. The action of the chemicals in it are estrogenic. And then it has glyphosate, right? Glyphosate, basically, if there's one, you know, basically parts per trillion of this in water, it will affect water, contaminate water. And so it's something that when it gets into your body, it's going to stay in your body for a lifetime. And it has absolutely devastating effects. So this estrogen dominance, basically, when you enter into perimenopause through the transition, your body increases its estrogen, and your progesterone and testosterone start to decline. So this gives a natural imbalance, right? A natural ratio change towards estrogen, and with that come all the perimenopausal symptoms, right? So there's a whole bunch of symptoms that, and I've got them written down because there's so many of them, right? I'm gonna read off to you guys the symptoms that you go through, right? That you can go through, and especially Black women go through basically all of these, right? And I say basically, not say that you all go through all of them, right? So can we be in agreement that the number one thing is the hot flashes?
That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah,
Right?
that's what
So,
always.
all right. So that's when you get the sudden burst of heat, and you have followed by sweating, and then you can become chilly. So you go through intense heat, and then next minute you're cold, right?
Yeah.
And depending on, again, your epigenetics, depending upon how well you've prepared, that's a variable of how intense those symptoms are, right? And those are also called vasomotor symptoms, right? So you have higher estrogen levels, weight gain,
Yes.
mood swings,
Yes.
depression, and
Yes.
or anxiety, right?
Yes.
Migraines, insomnia,
Yes.
vaginal dryness, which is also vaginal atrophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Painful, right? And
I can't see you. Where you there? The part of
Good there.
all right. So because of the vaginal dryness comes painful sex. There's a plummet in libido because because in order for libido to be in its full effect, you need your androgenic hormones, right? You need your testosterone, you need your progesterone. You know, progesterone plays a major part. Bladder incontinence. I don't think any of you really spoke about that, right?
No, but yeah, definitely.
All right. Bladder incontinence.
Yes.
Joint pains.
Yes.
Hair loss. Right?
I did, yes.
And that's androgenetic, right? Hair loss. So alopecia has two forms: alopecia areata, which is autoimmune, which basically is caused by inflammation through whatever you're eating or stuff that you may be putting onto your skin. And as Black people, we attack our skin from day dot because we put Vaseline on our skin and all kinds of lotions and whatnot that we put on our skin from when we're children. Dax, you know, all the Dax heroes. These are petrochemicals, right? And they cause an autoimmune response. Basically, they cause inflammation of the scalp and whatever, right? Mild facial hairs. So
yes,
women get
I have one.
I have a couple.
It always comes when I come my period. Always.
Right. So that is basically negative feedback of androgens and estrogen, though. Estrogen is involved in that, right? So when you're going through menopause, there's an increase in your menopause. So a lot of women, when some doctors were prescribing estrogen treatment, right, to women who are going through perimenopause, but they added to the problem. It adds to the problem because you're already estrogen dominant, so you don't need to add more estrogen in there. So as an herbalist and endocrinologist, I know, and I do not recommend hormone replacement therapy, right? As a last resort, right? And the last resort is down to basically the digestive system having dysfunction, right? Having dysfunctional digestive system where you will need some form of hormone replacement therapy, but that would be more progesterone than it would be estrogen anyway. So those are the symptoms that women go through. Now, the lack of education is based upon how to prepare. So from during premenopause, which is, you know, women of childbearing age, right? Premenopause. There's supposed to be preparation leading up to perimenopause. And I heard you, Kaz, earlier on, right? Speaking about the rabbit food, right? And I got something
My
for you.
alarm's gone off. I've got to go and check the oven.
No, you need to stay behind for this part. You need to stay behind, right? So it's your diet, but more importantly, it's about nutrition. In order for your body to function correctly, to be functional and do it in the correct manner, it needs resources. Those resources come by way of nutrients, right? Nutrients come by way of your food and what you breathe in and what's on your skin, right? So when we talk to people about their diet, it's about, okay, two things, right? And we said this on one of your earlier broadcasts, where minimize and eliminate toxins from your diet and increase and add nutrients, more nutrients to your diet. Nutrients are bioavailable, useful chemicals that your body metabolizes and create resources, enzymes, peptides, useful for hormones, for all manners of chemicals that your body utilize to make you function, right? And when you're lacking in those, or you disturb them by way of toxins, right? That's where you have these problems. Now the big issue, especially with Black women who grew up in the West, and we can even say in the East now because it's everywhere, right? The cultural education that was tribal, because everything we would basically have analogs, right? Have journals, have, you know,
Oral
manuscripts,
tradition. Yeah.
whether it was oral or written. Everything that would happen naturally in our lives, we would mark it down and it would be passed on to generations to come. We would teach, right? That's missing now. So women are not communicating. Women who go through menopause, who went through perimenopause and are now in menopause and have their issues, they're not communicating to younger women to state what works best for them, right?
Can I raise a question? So
Yeah.
Perimenopause and menopause. So how do you know when you've passed perimenopause and you're into menopause?
So perimenopause, the end of perimenopause is marked by 12 consecutive months of no period.
Okay, all right.
Right? So some women may go 8 months and then they have a period. And even if it's spotting or whatever, they're still somewhat ovulating and they go through they can become pregnant. So there's women who are going through the transition who get pregnant. They can still get pregnant, right? So when you go to the 12 consecutive, that's when you're now menopause, where you are deemed now that, all right, you can't get pregnant. You're no longer menstruating, you're no longer ovulating. Now, menopause, perimenopause and menopause are transitions. Now, most women, when you say, all right, and I'll ask you guys just to prove the point, right? What is menopause to you? What if you can define menopause in one sentence? All right, and this goes to your audience and your panel. If you can all write it down and put it into the chat in one sentence, what is menopause? What does it mean?
Any of our guests want to? put in a sentence what
Well,
menopause?
for me,
And,
it was the
you guys who are on the panel, you can say it. You don't have to write it down. You can say it.
Oh,
Say it
oh.
at the same time.
for
Yeah.
me the defining moment that I can't bear children anymore. I was devastated.
Right. So you can't bear children anymore. Okay. So to summarize that, that would be you're saying reproductive. It's a reproductive transition. All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I would say it's a transition into another time in your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
A transition by way of, because you can't just say transition. I'm not gonna let you get away with that, psychologist.
I mean, in terms of your body and your periods, that reproduction system, it's kind of a end of one chapter and a beginning of another.
I think if I can just jump in there, because something that came up quite a bit when we were doing research earlier on is that, end of virility, right? End of womanhood, because, the essence of being a woman is the ability to give birth, right? So when that door is closed and, through nature is saying you can no longer have children, that is the end of a chapter, as you're talking about, of your womanhood. You can no longer go back to that, right? At any point up until that point, you might be on the, birth control, you might decide you're not having children, whatever reason it is. But when nature says that's it, you are now forced. And I think that is the again, what I've been reading says a very good point you guys just made. Sorry, Dr. Amsu, just
No. So the general anybody else? I just want to get a consensus on what this transition is, what it means, what menopause means from all the ladies.
I think it's exactly what Miss T said and what Mr. Breaks was just talking about, and Denise. It's a combination, like you can no longer have children. Your body's now leaving that part. You're now going to another stage in your life, and that stage means you can't, obviously have any more children. And this is now the time that you're really going to have to start looking about yourself, because things are happening now. It's just like, when you think about a car and it just, it wears and tears, just like anything. So now you're getting to that wear and tear kind of stage. So whilst you still got those years still remaining, this is the time that you're really going to have to start looking after yourself.
Right. So
even though you should do it beforehand and not eat an oxtail like me.
All right. Anybody else on the panel?
Getting old.
All right, I saw that. Getting old.
I just want to say that. I was not claiming it because I'm not old.
No, but when I say, all right, okay, it is a combination of what everybody's saying, but it's getting old to me. Gravity setting, everything start drop down. You can't make baby again. You get dry. You can't enjoy the things you used to enjoy the way you used to enjoy it, and you have to make adjustments. It's getting old.
So can you still have sex? Like,
yeah, you can, but it's not the same like when you was younger, when things was you know.
So what if you still was like keeping yourself physically fit, like going to the gym and all that kind of stuff?
But you can listen, if you can. For me, yes, you can keep physically fit. You can be slim trim. You can be as big as a house. It still have the same sleepless nights. You still have the same hot flush. It still have everything, and you just don't have a period. Your body's changing. Do you understand? So yes, you change your diet, you start going to the gym, but you're still experiencing these things. It might be lighter than somebody who's not doing it, but it's the same thing. Yeah, get old. It's getting old.
All right. So
that's just my.
So here's the thing, right? So the general consensus is that it's a reproductive transition, right? Right. So basically, it's something where you can't have children anymore, and you're no longer going through your periods. But here's the thing: there's a twofold transition. It's neuroendocrinal, meaning it's your hormones, it's your reproductive system because of your hormones and your endocrine system. It's also neurological. So your central nervous system is impacted. Your autonomic nervous system is impacted. Right? So the reason for hot flushes, right? The reason for insomnia, sleepless nights, the reason for anxiety and depression, right? You don't get anxiety and depression because you no longer have children. That is a neurological situation, right?
Yeah.
And that neurological situation is impacted by a decline in sex hormones, right? So when you're going through menopause, right? Perimenopause, your ovaries start to decline in the sex hormones it's producing, namely estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. When your ovaries stop producing these, when you're in menopause / postmenopause, the only place to produce these hormones is now through your adrenals, right? So, and the adrenals basically produce a lot less of these hormones than your ovaries, right? So one of the issues, especially with Black women, that happens is surgical intervention, medical intervention that brings on early menopause, right? Which is hysterectomy, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that's major. So here in the United States, because we're in the United States, just for everybody to know, right? African American women lead the world in hysterectomies. So the rest of the world combined doesn't amount to the amount of hysterectomies that African American women have here in America. So when we now add Afro-Caribbean Black women to the mix, now we have like what's the term? A vast majority. So it's already a majority. Now we're talking about the distinct majority. Black women lead the world in hysterectomy. Hysterectomies mean that you give up, and some are partial. Some women have hysterectomies where they keep their ovaries. So that's fortunate. That's more fortunate. But most women are convinced by their gynaes, we take out the whole thing. You're going through all this pain. You had children. You don't need children. You don't need your uterus. You don't need your womb anymore because you've had children. You don't want any more, do you? All right, it's okay. And what they don't tell you is the neurological impact, right, of this situation. So all the psychological problems that women go through, the anxiety, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, right? That anxiety is major, but there's also another major thing. Now, Alzheimer's and dementia, right, is greatly impacted or puts women at greater risk when they go through menopause, right?
Okay.
Because of the decline in estradiol, right? And there are parts of the brain, gray matter volume decreases, white matter volume decreases, right? Because of the lack of estrogen, endogenous estrogen, meaning the estrogen that you produce yourself, it heightens the risk of amyloid beta plaques, right? Amyloid beta plaques are one of the root causes of Alzheimer's, dementia, right? So out of all the whole world of dementia, women represent 2/3 and greater, and it's down to menopause.
Jeez.
Are you talking about the brain fog?
Because I've been getting brain fog.
Well,
I get that a lot.
One of the brain
Big
fog,
brain fog,
forgetfulness,
menopause.
right?
Oh my-
Forgetfulness, short memory, long memory loss, long-term memory loss, short-term memory loss. All of those things kick in if, and this is the caveat, if you do not prepare yourself for the transition. The transition is going to take place, but the impact of the transition is determined by how well you prepare, what you start to feed your body, what nutrition your body has. And that's where we come in with our remedies for the problem.
Just before you go into the remedies, before you do that, there's some questions that's coming in the chat. We've got Trisha O'Neill who says, hi all, sorry, it's been answered already, but how do you know when you are pre-menopause?
All right. So when
Perimenopause.
you are in perimenopause, you will exhibit symptoms. Your period might become lighter, or it might become heavier, right? So I'll go through those symptoms again. Hot flashes, which is like 90% of women who are going through the transition, they will basically exhibit these symptoms, right? Weight gain. You suddenly start to gain weight. Now, menopause also facilitates insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is something that, as we get older, when we're battering our bodies with all these toxins, right? And we have more and more inflammation, right? We become less insulin sensitive, and we stop getting glucose around the body. And one of the issues with the brain feeds off glucose. So when our insulin stops, when we become more resistant to insulin, it also affects our brain. So we're not going to convert sugars into glycogen and feed our brains with glucose. And that's part of the problem that causes the plaques and causes a decline in our higher cognitive functions, right? So
can I jump in here
yeah,
as well?
jump in.
It's a great question, and I think it's Trisha came on. You're not too late. It's a great question. We need to maybe reiterate this several times. I think everyone on the call has alluded to this, what I'm about to say, at some point. And Dr. Amsu, you've given some great science, but just to sort of button it up, one of the key points that was mentioned at the beginning of this, and Dr. Amsu, you alluded to this, is that Black women tend to experience menopause or early symptoms of menopause up to 10 years.
Right.
So check this out. The median age for menopause is around 51, right? If you combine Black women, Hispanic women, Asian women, it's around 51. So if Black women are getting that, let's say 10, 7, 8 years. So let's go 10 years. So 41, a Black woman at 41, the last thing she's thinking about is menopause. She's just come out of her 30s. She's probably still got kids in infant school or maybe primary school. Do you see what I mean? You still got a fairly young family. You still, in just kicking off in your career. You just getting to that point in your career. You're starting to get your first and second promotions. You haven't paid off your house yet. You're just not starting off in life, but you're kind of on that, on that ramp. You're just getting into life. 41. Then you start experiencing these symptoms.
Right.
You do not attribute those symptoms to menopause. So now, guess what? There's a stat I read earlier on that you guys probably know this because you're women on here. I'm sure there's some men somewhere hiding in the background on this call, right? But it's women who initiate divorce.
Oh, so women
after 40, 50, in that age group, 40s to 50s, maybe late 60s, it's women that tend to initiate divorce. And when studies were done into why, it was because of all of the mood changes, all of the depression, all of the lack of libido. So think about this. You're 40 something, 43. Let's say you're 43 years old, right? You've been married 6-7 years with your husband. You've got small kids, right? You're at the height of your sexual prowess regards to a couple in a relationship. Then your libido drops. Now, society and couples tend to believe it's the man. The man's not doing it. If it's the woman, it's taboo, so the man can't say it. Women secretly go and seek advice and seek help and seek medication, as Dr. Amsu was talking about. They seek, you start to use lubes and all the rest of it. And something I want to map this as well. Allostatic load is what I think. I can't remember the young lady was talking about that. Trauma, hypertension, diabetes, physical trauma, work stress, life stress, financial stress, racial stress. If you add all of these stresses up, along with the physical counterparts to those stress and then the diseases the stress causes, that's another reason not only do Black women hit menopause earlier, but when they do hit menopause, they are compromised because of the lack of strength, literally, to cope with the changes in menopause. So you stack all those things onto each other, and then you're in a relationship with a man, with young kids and a family, and you might be a teacher, so you've got, all the work stress as well, all around that. It has a massive impact on relationships, on the community, socially. But in those microcosms of those relationships, they tend to break down, because when the sex libido goes down, a woman who's just 42, 43, it starts to raise problems. And a lot of people, rather than looking for help, because they're not going to look for help for menopause, are they?
Right.
Time soon. If they don't have fibroids, they don't have a particular condition, there's something, it's that there's something wrong with you. Man, she gone crazy.
Yeah.
She hasn't gone crazy. She's in perimenopause. She's in early, right? And so the reason I'm mentioning this is because what Trisha said. How do you know, basically, what the symptoms are? And I can't remember the young lady speaking earlier on. The symptoms may not be hot flashes. Someone said, I think it's lady with the glasses. Sorry, I didn't get your name. You weren't having hot flashes. You were getting all the other symptoms, right?
Right.
You were getting the brain
That's
fog.
why there's a plethora of
symptoms.
symptoms.
So imagine you're getting to perimenopause 10 years earlier than you would do, but you're not having hot flashes. Now the hot flashes, hey man, I go to my doctor, man, I just had this hot flash all of a sudden. You might talk to your mom or your auntie. You're not getting hot flashes. You're not even thinking menopause. But guess what? The libido drops, right? The vaginal dryness, the brain fog, then the mood, depression. Dr. Amsu, you talked a little bit about depression. Understand something. If you're a black woman living in England or America and you're 42 years old and you're at the height of your career and you start to suffer depression, what does that do? Not just for your home life, but for your work life. We don't talk about how many lives are destroyed because people don't know they have menopause. Think about this. If you know you have a condition, you can seek help for that condition.
Yeah.
Do some mental therapy and start to cope with it earlier. Because, we talked about coping mechanisms. I know you're going to go into about prepping for menopause. But think of how many lives are destroyed because they just don't know they have menopause. The societies we live in are not trained to recognize the fact that black women get to menopause 10 years earlier. So when black women come to the doctor with these conditions, guess what the doctor's not even thinking about? Menopause.
That's
So
right.
you're going crazy.
Right.
So you have some so now they give you medication for actual depression.
Yeah.
Right.
Psychotropic drugs for depression.
Yes.
Depression is just a symptom of the menopause. It's not that you are depressed. Dr. Amsu,
Now, and here's the thing. The reason why these symptoms are exhibited is because you haven't prepared. You have continued with the toxins, right? So Judgment Day is here on earth. If you follow what I'm saying.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
Judgment Day is here on earth. So from the actions of your life or how you're living, you live out the consequence where it's like, okay, you suffer with estrogen dominance. You have insulin resistance, right? And insulin resistance is one of the root causes, if not the main root cause behind bladder or urinary incontinence. Because insulin resistance affects nerves, affects the nervous system, causes inflammation in the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, right? So your bladder has a twofold relationship within itself. There's voluntary and involuntary. It's an involuntary meaning that whether you want to or not, you can go. Your body has its own way in when the external urethral sphincter will open up and let urine out because the bladder's full, right? Now, women in general, if you go anywhere, go movies, go to a club, go anywhere, the lines for the women's restroom or the toilets, right? The women's toilets is always the longest line. Women have this thing from even when they're younger, that when they gotta go, right? Now when you get older, your involuntary starts to overtake the voluntary. So you start to lose control of when that external urethral sphincter opens up.
Yeah.
Right? So women who become incontinent, right? And they just go. And now you have women who don't want to leave their house. So that's another anxiety that's placed on top. And it's down. So here's one of the things. How many of you women eat cheese?
I stopped.
I have it now and then, but I've stopped eating it. Like I used to have cheese on everything is my favorite cheese.
So,
But yeah, so I've slowed down.
So dairy in general, right? What is one thing we know about black people when it comes to dairy?
Lactose intolerance.
Lactose intolerance. But we ignore it. We ignore. We know we're not. We know we're lactose intolerant, but we don't know what. No one explains. All right, what does that mean exactly, though? What you know, you want to poop or something when you know, or you make your doo-doo runny or whatever, right? Mushy, and we think that's the extent of it. No, it actually is a metabolic dysfunction that turns into an autoimmune dysfunction. So lactose intolerance is one of the root causes, especially in black people, for insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes. Right? And insulin resistance it causes many issues to add to the menopausal symptoms. Right? So everything that black women go through is down to the lack of education, lack of knowledge of what they need to do to prepare themselves for the change.
Yeah.
But everybody, it's like you get a tap on the shoulder one day. Who's that? Menopause.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's too late. The good news is, though, as long as you're breathing, you can turn it around.
Good. Yeah.
Just before you go there, sorry, I keep on interjecting. We got another question from Dee Dee. She says, apologies already answered. Why do you think there are such a high figure of African-American women having hysterectomy? Is it due to a lack of educational alternatives?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah. Yes and no. So yes, of course, always education is key to everything, right? And it may segue into something I was going to say about menopause as well. But let's answer this, because I think Dr. Amsu, you alluded to this earlier on about, we're talking about allostatic load, how much trauma your body has been through by the time you get to menopause, right? And African-American women or black women, their bodies have been through way more trauma by the time they get to menopause. Dr. Amsu gave the figures about how many African-American or black women were being led down the path of hysterectomy or myomectomy, invasive surgical operations to remediate situations or symptoms that should have been prevented in the first place, right? So this is the answer to the question, Dee Dee, is that yes, African-American women are far more likely to have hysterectomy, not only because they have the polymorphisms that cause their bodies to be more susceptible because of diet, because of medication, because of toxins, because of environmental conditions, that they will form fibroids and PCOS and endometriosis. And we have a medical industry, whether it be NHS or private medicine here in America or wherever country you're in, because they're driven by the pharmaceutical industry, right? Because there's big money in wombs, there's big money in placenta, there's big money in stems. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but the facts are out there. You guys can go and research it yourself, that black women are more likely to be led to hysterectomy than their white counterparts.
Yeah.
So a combination of a number of things.
Well, let's say why, right? So black women's stem cells are the best stem cells in the world. And there are a whole bunches of white papers out there, the mitochondria, everything about these stem cells are basically what they call perfect. So when women have hysterectomies, that uterus is sold for like 40 grand.
Wow.
Hold on. So they're making
Yes. So let's just say you have a hysterectomy and you say, well, I want to keep it. They'll talk you out of it because now you're messing with their money. So so the procedure itself, the gynae is making money off the procedure. So there's a conflict of interest. So here's the damning statistic. 75% of all hysterectomies are unnecessary.
Wow.
So 3 out of 4 hysterectomies are unnecessary. The only reason why a hysterectomy can be justified is if there's ovarian cancer or there's some issue that is impacting other organs that needs to be remedied immediately, right? That's the only justification.
If it's critical,
right?
You know, life-threatening.
Right. Only justification. Now, the money that they get from the procedure, the money that they get from selling the body part, there's a conflict of interest that you're not even. So the ignorance or the miseducation or lack of education is knowing what's being done. It's like taking your car. Somebody was speaking about a car earlier, like taking your car somewhere and it's a vintage car, but you didn't know your granddad left you the car and it's a Stag. You know what I mean? It's a Triumph Stag or something, but it's just an old car to you. You don't know. Then you take it to some dealer and he's like, I'll give you a couple of grand for it, you know, or 600. This time when you leave, it's like, blood clot. You know, now that dealer's going to be like, man, I can get like 20, 30 grand for this car. Unbeknownst. So
what do they use it for? Is it used mainly for research, or what is it used for?
Research,
medication. What do you call
the
it?
Plasma, the stem cells. They create. They isolate molecules and they synthesize, but they need the source. So
stem cell therapy.
So stem cell therapy in itself, and all the medications that come from it. Just like you hear about melanin and all the applications that are out there, right? And the melanin as well within the uterus is also very potent. So there's so many uses that it has that you don't even know. So you discard it and they charge you for it.
Yeah.
Right? Especially over here. Women get charged.
And remember, guys, there's only one place to get those stem cells. Either from a fetus, from a newborn baby, which they can't terminate, or from the black woman's womb, which is why they do hysterectomy and a myomectomy, so they can get the stem cells.
Also from placenta.
After well, I mean, somewhere within the female reproductive system is where they get these stem cells. This is why they have to get black women on that on that chopping table.
Right.
You know, can I just segue into something? It's really staying on topic, right? And a question was asked earlier on. I think, in fact, Tricia actually asked the question. I saw it come up on the screen. Dr. Amsu, you started to talk to this. Is not only when do you know you're in perimenopause, but really when do you start to prepare for menopause, right? Now, my answer, Dr. Amsu, you can tell me how rubbish I am, but you need to start preparing for menopause when you're in your teens, when you start your menstrual cycle, when you start menstruating. Think about this. So there are certain things we know about ourselves as human beings, right? Black, white, Indian, it doesn't matter. As human beings, we know certain things about ourselves. We know when we start, puberty. We know when we start menarche. We know when we're most virile. And we know at some point we're going to, our libido is going to drop off. Women are going to enter menopause. Men are more likely or to have prostate issues. There's a bell curve, right? We know this. But here's the thing. We don't educate our kids going into it or way before it that everything you do today is going to have an effect. Remember, we talked about the allostatic load. So if you're a young woman or a young man and you eat tons of sweets, tons of processed food, alcohol, drinking, all types of crazy marijuana. Remember, very quickly, segue, a lot of this marijuana that's hybrid, that's genetically modified marijuana, is being modified from the female strain. And because they're removing the seeds from it, it no longer has manganese. So what it does, it actually sterilizes people. Okay, so that weed isn't the lamb's bread, sensimilla, Cali weed that you remember was the youth coming up. All these weeds they're coming out with now, the Amsterdam weeds that are selling over in America, David Banner and Hulk and all them kind of weeds, Purple Haze and all these funny names. They're modified. They are sterilizing us. Okay, segue.
And also they increased the THC, right? THC is one of the properties it's one of the cannabinoids in marijuana, right? That give you your high. That's what's responsible for you getting high. Now, what they've done with the GMO weed now is they've increased THC levels. THC also is estrogenic, right? It's psychotropic, meaning it has a psychedelic effect on the body. It causes psychosis, right? So
What's psychosis? Sorry, I just need to...
psychosis, you start to hear voices, you have episodes. It causes episodes where you can't discern reality from fiction, right?
So that's not a chatter, that's you actually hearing the voice.
Well, many people, for different people, it has different effects. But one of the things is that you can't discern what is your own thoughts from suggestion from.
Remember, it's triggering synapses that that don't need to be
So,
triggered.
so you know, when you're tired and you start to nod off, and you might even be watching TV or something, and like thoughts come into your head that ain't got nothing to do with what you're watching, and you're watching something and it ain't making sense anymore, right? When it comes to your psychological mechanisms and pathways, it's very intricate, it's very delicate, it's very subtle, right? And these subtleties have massive cascades, right? So when with weed, with nicotine, with alcohol, these are all behavior altering chemicals, right? But they also contribute to severe menopausal symptoms, right? So one of the things that we spoke about is weight gain. Now, again, over here in the United States, 75 to 80% of African American women are obese. Obesity means that your fat is out of whack, it's out of control. Your BMI has gone above a certain threshold where now there's dysfunction, and it's now an autoimmune situation where now you're inflammatory. Your body is now in a chronic inflammatory state. What does that mean? It means that inflammatory cells, proteins, start to attack your cell, your tissues, and your organs. It has an effect where what we call apoptosis, cellular death, right? So things like your pancreas, your liver, your kidneys, your heart, your brain starts getting attacked by immune cells, and the amount of diseases or dysfunctions or conditions, right, that come with that. So what we're talking about here is the correct preparation for this transition, because it sounds like doom and gloom. So what we like to do is set up the doom and gloom. It's like, what are we going to do? And then we can ease in what we're going to do about it, right? And so, as Mikey was just speaking about, it's the culture. The culture starts from puberty. So when girls start puberty, if you're having heavy menstrual cycles, right, or you're experiencing pain, discomfort, and your periods are bad, they're terrible, the pain is debilitating, and that's your body letting you know, all right, I'm in a dysfunctional state, you are abusing me, and I'm letting you know by way of pain. So it's like you put your hand into fire and it burns, you learn, I'm not putting my hand in that again, right? But what happens is it's now being normalized that, all right, women go through pain during their menses. And all right, here's what we're going to do about it. We're going to give you these pills, birth control. But the birth control does not deal with the root cause. It does not remedy the root cause. All it does is it might alleviate a couple of the symptoms. But because it's synthetic, it has side effects, and the side effects accumulate, and they set you up so that when you do go through the transition, when you start going through the transition, all the memory, right? Everything that how you've hurt your body, it starts to come back. So there's no rest for women when it comes to their neuroendocrine system, right? There's no rest. And then what do we know? What do you guys know about adrenals? So now your adrenals take over the function of producing your hormones, your sex hormones, right? And your sex hormones have a very intimate relationship with your brain and other organs. The way how we metabolize foods are determined by the balance of those hormones, right? Boom, or your womb stops working, or your ovaries stop producing, is now dependent on your adrenals. Adrenals are known for adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones, right? So progesterone is your sex hormone that is responsible for balancing and inhibiting the damaging effects of estrogen, right? Estrogen is, when it's functional, is remarkable. It has remarkable functions. It's part of osteogenesis, meaning bone, your bone formation. It plays an important role in your moods, in your behavior, in your mammary glands, in your vaginal endothelial cells, the lining of your vagina, which atrophies, which causes the painful sex and the dryness and that, in your brain function, your cognitive abilities. So when it's regulated correctly, very functional. When it's not regulated correctly, it's a carcinogen. It causes cancer. It causes tumors. It causes depression and anxiety, all these things. But it is regulated by the ratio between it and progesterone, and also testosterone.
Right,
Now,
we're going to have to wrap up now, Dr. Amsu, because time is of the essence, and we're supposed to finish at 10:30.
All right, so let me make this point very quickly. So,
I'm thinking we should do part 2 as well,
Yes.
because I feel that there's so much more information. And,
yes, definitely.
we want to obviously know more about your solution, which is your remedy.
Yeah.
And what I do also want to do is invite some of those who are watching, the viewers, to come on as well onto the live, to be able to get involved in the in the panel, get involved in the questions, etc. But just before we wrap up, please make sure you are subscribed to the Now Chat Show, so then you do know when we're going to be doing the part 2. Secondly, do make sure you are following the Great Black Detox. Do follow Dr. Amsu on all of their social media, because then you'll be updated when they do their live podcast. Because I think you do it. It's changed the dates now.
We've got one coming up this Friday. Yeah.
Friday. Okay. So all right. So anyway, let's just wrap up real quick. Give it 5 minutes, and then we'll set a date for us to do part 2.
Okay, so let me just make this point really quick, because what it is that menopause is such a big subject, because it's for the rest of your life. It doesn't end. It's for the rest of your life. So your adrenals produces cortisol.
Very interesting, but I have
progesterone is a precursor to cortisol. So when you're under stress, so all the stresses that Mikey was talking about, right, earlier, when that's triggered, your body produces cortisol to deal with it, right? When you produce cortisol, it now, the little progesterone that your body is producing is then impacted even further, because the progesterone is used to make cortisol to deal with the stress. So progesterone produces a metabolite, allopregnanolone, which is a metabolite for GABA. GABA is what calms you down, that helps you to sleep and relaxes you. It kicks in at a certain time of the day, and when you start to relax and you're like, right, I'm mellowing out. It's the mellow situation, right? Helps you with sleep and all of that stuff, right? When that depletes, you're not creating GABA, therefore you're on edge. You can't relax, which is the insomnia, right? So it impacts your brain, your neurological. So we have formulated 2 supplements that deal with the most major parts of menopause. One is called Venus, which deals with the reproductive side, the hormonal side, the endocrinal side, and we have Neuroplex, which deals with the psychological and neurological side, right? To keep brain cells healthy, to keep neurons healthy, right? And also fights inflammation. But here's another factor that also is a pandemic, especially for Black women. It's vitamin D3 deficiency, right? Vitamin D3, which we get from the sun naturally, you don't get, especially in London. You're not getting any right now. You're not going to be getting any kind of D3.
I've subscribed mine from America.
We're getting some sun this weekend.
No, well, your sun. All right. So even if you get sun, your body has to synthesize UVB, ultraviolet beta rays, which you don't get from like now, from like September, the end of September. You don't get it in the UK. You're not going to get it until next year, March. So the vitamin D deficiency is because you're not getting it in your food, right? Or through supplementation. So you have to rely solely on the sun, right? So we have a supplement called D3. D3 inhibits pro-inflammatory cells and helps to modulate your immune function. So it protects you from viruses and bacteria and that. But more importantly, it regulates your pro-inflammatory cells that cause all the inflammation and those cells that attack your cells, your tissues and organs, right? So this lack of D3, it also is behavioral. The stress levels and your anxiety and depression, that feel-good feeling that we get from the sun is because we synthesize those UVB rays into D3, and it makes us feel great, right? Okay, so when you
share the link for all of what you're actually discussing right now. So it's actually in the group, and those who are watching the replay, you've got the information there, and I will put in the description as well. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
All right. So basically, when we come back for the part 2, we can have more of a Q&A session, right?
Yes.
Because it's so much. It's so big. It's the most important part of a woman's life is that transition, and the quality or the hell of that transition is determined by how well you prepare yourself. So I can quickly let you know that cruciferous vegetables are the way to go in your diet, right? Because they help to inhibit enzymes and also excess estrogens. The enzyme aromatase, which produces estrogen, it helps to regulate those so that you're not overly producing, and also helps with the production of progesterone, because it's progesterone, the balance of progesterone and estrogen. When you have those balanced, your transition and your menopause will no longer be a problem.
Okay.
All right. So there's women who are in menopause that have no symptoms. It's because they're eating correctly. And so dairy and meat. So we talk about meat a lot because in meat you have hormones. They feed the animals these soys, and they feed them corn, and these even if it's corn fed, the corn is genetically modified and has glyphosates in it and all kinds of blasphemies that carry into the meat of animals and whatnot. So when you eat them, you're initiating an inflammatory response in the body. So your diet has to change. There's Kegel exercises for your bladder. There's, you know, we can go into a whole lot more the next time when we have more time, when we're direct answering questions.
I definitely want to speak to you guys as well, because I think we should have like a show once a month with you guys, not just talking about menopause, but talking about various different issues that we go through as people, right down from prostate cancer, diabetes, etc. Because you guys are doing awesome work throughout the community, and I think everyone, we all going to go through something. Do you know what I mean? So we need to have these real conversations, if that is possible. Yeah.
Very quickly, Kaz, I know you got to go, but I think Stephanie's been making a couple of comments, which are very valid comments. And maybe on our next conversation, we can talk to that. But absolutely, we have a whole program, not to belabor the point, but we have coaching services, we have mental health coaches, we have relationship coaches, talking to, and some of our first conversations, you know, this is a technical conversation talking to menopause specifically. But, you know, I mentioned earlier on this call, talking about, you know, how not just the woman, but how the family, how the husband, the boyfriend, even the kids, you know, Dr. Amsu's got his own story about his mum having hysterectomy when he was a kid. Women go through these things and don't mention it to their own families. Work and friends, their own families don't know that. Oh, she went away for a couple of days. Oh, she went to see her friend. No, she was in hospital, you know, having a outpatient procedure, or even more critical, a hysterectomy. And so men aren't groomed, don't understand, don't know how to help. Okay. And this is part of what we do, is when we do talk to men, we help men to understand that what your woman's going through, no, she's not going crazy. She's going through menopause. This is what menopause is. This is your role in it. This is how you should respond. Here are the things you can do. Give her space. Here are the things you can do to nurture that. And we need that interaction, because we can't have 60% of divorces being initiated by women because men didn't understand. Maybe because the woman didn't explain it to the man, or maybe he didn't know. Do you know what I mean? So there are so many areas of this. So absolutely, Stephanie.
And the issue is, a woman cannot explain something
she doesn't understand.
Right? And women go through nervous breakdowns, right? And remember, this is a endocrinal and neurological transition that can be hell if not prepared for. You know,
and can I say something as well? Stephanie, you made a great point here, not getting into the politics of it, but women have maternity leave, right? Yes. Men have maternity leave, right? Depending, you know, how good the company is you work for. What do we have for menopause?
Nothing.
This is a change
but
that
they're looking to change that, though.
This is a change that every woman is going to go through. This is a change that causes more of an impact to a woman's life than having babies. Some women have babies, have no issues. They get pregnant, you know, go for all 3 trimesters, no issues. Might have had a bit of a craving for gherkin or something like that, but everything was cool. That same woman goes through menopause and loses it.
Now, here's the...
No, you're still there. I just want to get this, because I'm going to cut this and put it out there. Yeah. Sorry, ladies, carry on.
Yeah, so here's what's important. If you want to make that change, if you want the government to institute something like that, petition the medical institution to petition the government. Don't waste your time going out on street on marches, right? You petition the medical institution, the government medical institution, to make that become a law, right? So they petition Parliament or Congress, depending on where you are in the world, right? Do not try to do protests and that. Go through it the correct way, which is speak to the medical institutions.
Okay, thank you. All right, so it's a wrap now, guys. So sorry, I said guys again. It's a wrap, everybody. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining our chat show this evening. We had an amazing conversation. We are going to be resuming this conversation next month, I would imagine, and hopefully the panelists and maybe having some of you beautiful people on the show as well. And make sure you have subscribed, make sure you hit the notification button so that you do know when we've actually gone live, and also that you can be informed when we actually do the part 2.
Yes.
There's so many questions coming through at the same time, and I really wish we could just but we have to really stick to time. We've gone beyond our time, to be quite honest. And some of you ladies who are going through menopause, because it's all right for you guys in the United States of America, because it's like what, 4 o'clock over there, 4:30.
I'm dozing. It's my bedtime. Was it 5:50? It's almost 6 o'clock.
Yeah, but it's not your bedtime. You're up watching Man United. So it's not like
What was the score anyway?
They won. They beat Tottenham 2-0.
2-0. So we're Gooners, so we're happy for that. We are absolutely happy about that.
all this politics. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. And until next time, make sure you have subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you share the link, because there's been amazing knowledge of wisdom that's been shared by these doctors who have done so much research, and they've also come up with the products, which I've also shared the links throughout the comments, but I will also add it onto the description. So those who want to get the information, it will be there. I will put it up as soon as this is being processed. So until next time, peace out. Thank you guys all for joining.
Bye. Take care.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you. Very important.